is finally happening. It only took one snow date to get us here, which this spring is not bad. This session is sponsored by UMaine Farmington and the Maine Department of Labor Center for Workforce Research and Information. And we'll tell you why you're here and what we're going to do after the keynote. This is not the usual way to do things, but John Butera, our keynote speaker, has been called to the Appropriations Committee in Augusta. And when Appropriations calls, we have to show up. So we've rearranged the agenda so that John can give his talk on workforce and economic development from the Maine state government point of view, and then he's going to run away, and then we will tell you why we're here and what we're going to do together today. And in a further departure from the ordinary way that things work, I'm going to give John his present right now, so we don't have to waste any time later. John, come up here and get your present. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
And no running away.
Okay.
Here,
all right. It's like Back to the Future.
Yeah. Now, you want to start with the last page first?
No. Well, I can tell you, I'll tell you why I believe you here. Because you all care deeply about Maine and moving the economy forward and making sure we have a workforce development system and a world-class workforce so that we can grow our economy. And I do appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I want to thank the University of Maine, Farmington, and the Center for Workforce Research and Information for being very flexible. Friday morning during the snowstorm in my office at home, I was sifting through my schedule for this week and got an email that, as Dr. Calico indicated, Appropriations is meeting at 10 to review the tax relief plan of the governor in the budget. And being the point person on that, I think I need to be there. So again, I appreciate the flexibility. I'm going to be very brief. I just want to give you an overview of my perspective on economic development and workforce development, because I think it's absolutely critical that we look at these two elements together. So before I present some formal comments on what I call the new economic development paradigm, and also some of the education system change imperatives, and then also some of the initiatives that the administration is looking at in terms of education and workforce development. Let me just provide a little brief background on myself, because I think it helps put some of the comments into context. I know there was something in the package about my background. I know that looked like pulled right from the website, but I have a 25-plus year career in economic development, both in the public and private sector. Most recently, before joining the administration, I spent about 8 years in Waterville with the Central Maine Growth Council, a public-private economic development agency, doing a variety of economic development initiatives. Two of our more prominent initiatives were the recruitment of T-Mobile to First Park in Oakland, and also the redevelopment of the Hathaway building into the Hathaway Creative Center. This is not my first foray into state government. When I moved to Maine in '98, I was the Director of Business Development in the King administration. I also did some private consulting for about 10 years in economic development, both on the site location side and also on the development of economic development strategies for communities, towns, and cities. As I mentioned, my wife and I moved here in 1998. She's a teacher, so we have some very fruitful discussions over the dinner table when our 6-year-old is not the center of attention, about education and what role that needs to play and how it needs to be changed, quite frankly, to meet the demands and needs of the 21st century economy. When I talk about the new economic development paradigm, back 20 years ago, when I was early on in this career, it was much different. Decisions and the growth of economies were predicated on facts and black and white issues. It was on infrastructure, costs of doing business, incentives, and other factors that were driven by the bottom line. Most time, communities built industrial parks. They made sure all the roads were there. They made sure the sewer lines were there, the power lines were there. They developed some incentives. They put together TIFs. and then they market the property to large users, large commercial users. Very little, if any, thought went into workforce development. 5 to 10 years ago, that changed dramatically. Now the driving force behind business success is plain and simple. It's about people. Technology in the new economy demands that businesses place a high priority on the workforce. Any business is as only successful as the people behind it. And this is not a trend that will go away. In fact, I think it's going to intensify. Workforce development is now the driver in economic success and business, and education must work together to find solutions. I mentioned my role in Waterville for about 8 years and some of the things we did on a tactical perspective. But one of the things I'm most proud of, and it's continuing to this date, is our organization worked with the Chamber, Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce, the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments, the local school districts, and we put together a business and education cooperative where we tried to break down the silos between business and education. We got them working together to talk about some of the needs on the business community side and some of the challenges that exist between the two entities. So we've got a program where we have businesses going into the schools to make presentations. We have regular tours that happen from the K through 12 education system into the businesses. We've developed an entrepreneurship program that we hope to bring into the K through 12 system. So again, it took a long amount of time to get that going, probably a couple years, but it's something that is happening and it's been proven successful.